I'm a big believer that we should always be willing to challenge our beliefs and mindsets, the things that we think we know about life and about the world, and the things that we get told about how to do life and which things to value most. And I love being wrong about these things sometimes, because every time I come away with a new life lesson that can lead to more happiness, success, or wisdom. So today I want to talk about the 5 things most people get wrong about life. And I think it can be so interesting to break down some of these common pitfalls that can hold us back and why it is so important that we try and rethink them. These 5 things are really common and very easy to fall into, myself included. I've definitely done some of these myself and sometimes still do. But if we can become aware of them, then we can also try and reframe how we think about these things and learn and grow as people. So let's talk about it. The first thing I want to talk about is looking for shortcuts, quick magic fixes, or just right solutions. There is a phenomenon in psychology known as temporal discounting. This is a bias where we value more immediate rewards over those in the future, and this can make our decisions less rational when you look at the long term and more impulsive. When I first started my channel, there were so many things that I saw other small creators do that didn't make a lot of sense to me. For example, sub for sub, and that is where they ask you to subscribe to their channel in exchange for them subscribing to your channel. And I kept thinking, like, why do all these people do this? It didn't make any sense to me, because what's one subscriber now going to do in the long term? So I just kind of ignored all of that and just focused on my own videos. And there were many more strange things like that I saw people do, and they were looking for quick wins and magic fixes instead of just doing the work and learning how to create a good video that people actually want to watch. They were really focused on getting a quick win in the short term. And this is not just with YouTube. I see this happening everywhere. It's so easy to fall into. So let's say that someone wants to start living a more minimalist lifestyle, then they might just start by something like throwing away most of their clothing instead of actually sitting down and doing the hard work of examining your consumer habits and trying to figure out why you tend to shop too much or spend too much money, or your bigger habits when it comes to clutter. It's just kind of how our brains are wired, and especially when it comes to things like social media and product marketing promising us all kinds of quick fixes, magic solutions. If we just buy this product, or if we just do this routine or something, it can actually hold us back from achieving what we want to achieve. And I think the pursuit of quick results with minimal effort also overlooks the value of the process itself. So facing challenges, doing the work, building resilience, and building up a skill. It's like when you're playing The Sims and on day 1 you just cheat for money and you buy them a big mansion. It completely takes all the fun out of it. Whereas if you start from scratch, build everything up slowly and steadily, you're excited about the process and every step of the way. And the first time you can buy your Sims a better couch, or you can buy them a better stove that doesn't catch on fire all the time. These are little milestones that are exciting because it's the journey and not the end result. And doing the boring thing and focusing on the long term instead of quick wins and quick results will make the journey go slower, probably, because progress doesn't happen overnight and growth doesn't happen overnight, but it will also be much more fulfilling and much more sustainable, and it will pay off in the end because you're building a foundation that is much stronger than any shortcut could have provided. I made a video recently where I shared the things that I often end up regretting purchasing, and one of you mentioned something that they described as just right solutions, and it kind of made me laugh because this was really relatable, and it falls into this category a little as well. Like that quest for the perfect pair of jeans or the perfect white t-shirt or the perfect shade of lipstick. In the end, there is no just right solution or product. You're gonna end up with a bunch of products that are not exactly what you were looking for, and now you have more things to deal with cluttering up your spaces. And product marketing loves telling us that this is the end-all be-all product, and that is because they know how our minds work and what biases that we have. So for me, just realizing this has helped me to buy a lot fewer items over the years, because I know now that quick fixes, magic, just right items just don't exist. The next one I want to talk about is about life maxing. Some people call it min-maxing. Basically, it's taking all of these different aspects of your life and trying to max everything. So tell me down below if you recognize the following scenario. You find a new thing that you like, you give it a try and you enjoy it. You like exploring said thing more and learning more about it. You do some research and you see other people being very good at the thing. You try figuring out the theoretical best way to enjoy said thing. You now feel pressured to do that thing perfectly and you lose joy in the process. Find new thing and begin the whole cycle over again. In the best case, life maxing can be a good thing. It is when someone is committed to make the most out of life and really letting themselves find joy in the things they love most. But it can also mean trying to perfect everything and forgetting to enjoy life because you're so busy focusing on trying to maximize life and all its aspects. This could be with your career and money, forgetting to enjoy the journey and enjoy life now because you're solely focused on figuring out the best optimized, most perfect investment strategies. It could be being obsessed with creating this perfect Insta-worthy home like the ones you see online and not being satisfied with a regular people spice drawer because it's not aesthetically pleasing enough and it needs to be decanted into all these tiny little matching containers. It could be instead of enjoying exercising and spending some time with your body, you kind of forget everything you loved about exercising in the first place because you're only focused on creating the perfect body and looking up everything there is to know about muscle growth and doing all these routines that you really don't find much joy in because you're only trying to optimize and maximize the results. Even with our hobbies, we can do this, trying to find ways to master it and do it all as effectively and efficiently as possible, kind of taking the fun out of it, instead of just seeing your hobbies as a thing to do to relax or an enjoyable way to spend your free time. Of course, there is value in trying to see if you can make improvements to certain things, especially in areas of life that really matter to you. But in the end, I think we shouldn't forget to ask ourselves the question, why? To what end? Because when it comes to productivity, goal setting, the pursuit of perfection, what is the end goal? And if you answer that question with something like to get things to be better, then ask yourself the question again. Because if you ask yourself why a bunch of times in a row, you will likely come out to something like, because it will help me enjoy my life more. And if that's the goal, then I think that we shouldn't forget to enjoy our life now, just kind of puttering about, doing our little hobbies in however way we find them fun. In our pursuit to max everything, optimize everything, we can forget that life isn't a race to be won or a checklist to be completed. If we're obsessed with maximizing every aspect, we risk missing out on the simple joys of the present. I think life doesn't have to be a perfectionist project. I think it is meant to be experienced, and we can just enjoy our hobbies and the things that we find fun without turning relaxation into yet another productivity goal. So instead of just being able to enjoy reading, we need to read 100 books a year, and just being able to enjoy exercising and spending time with your body, you need to have the perfect workout routine. Sometimes it's okay to just be and just do whatever. And it really takes the pressure off. Because in the end, when you look back on your life, you're probably not going to be wishing that you had done things more perfectly or more optimized, more efficiently, but you might be thinking that you wished that you had enjoyed things more. And this is something I often think about, trying to live my life in alignment with how I wish I would have lived it, looking back on it when I'm old, if that makes sense. And the next one is spending most of your time in the past or the future. When you're in your teens, or probably also in your 20s, you don't really think about time that much. It feels like you'll be young forever and time doesn't feel like a finite resource. But now that I'm a bit older, I love thinking about time. And we often think about money as the most valuable resource, and I think it can be, especially if you're struggling financially. But unlike money, which we can always make more of, time is finite. Basically, if you hear the clock ticking, those seconds, you will never get back. Sometimes I like to freak myself out a little bit and think about time as endless moments of now. So instead of being this linear thing like past, present, future, it's more like now and now and now. But as soon as you think about it now is already in the past. So that's when I start to get a little bit dizzy and I stop thinking about it. Basically, what I'm trying to say is our body is always right here, like right now in the present moment. But where is our mind? Are we present and aware right now, or are we stuck in the past or worried about the future? Some people focus a lot on reliving past regrets or thinking about how things used to be better, or holding on to grudges that make them feel hurt and angry and sad. Others, and this is me sometimes, get stuck worrying about the future, and we're anxious, we're caught in what if scenarios and worrying about things that haven't happened yet, and in my case probably won't happen, or at least not to that extent. And I think for many people these anxieties and worries get worse when the world feels scary and there is a lot of uncertainty, like so many things that are happening right now. When these big forces are happening that are outside of our control, we feel even more scared and powerless, and it's easier to get stuck worrying about the future. What I like to do when I get stuck in the future is bring myself back to the here and now, like right here, right now, as I'm sitting on this chair. I'm not in any danger. I'm okay. We have food to eat, water to drink. I'm fine right now, and there's nothing really going on. I sometimes wish mindfulness will be taught to kids in school, because so many of us are stuck in the past, reliving the sadness, the failures, or worried about the future. And when we do this, we cannot fully experience life as it is right now, which is basically all there is. Like, these seconds right now are your life, and if we're not present for them, they pass us by. And I think being present is not something that we can always 100% of the time do, and we can of course learn from the past and use it as a reference point, and choose the good memories and get joy from them over and over by remembering them. And we can plan for the future as much as we can and is in our control, and the future also gives us hope, which can inspire positive actions. But don't forget that the real life you're living is happening right now. And yes, sometimes today is a little bit boring or sad or stressful or whatever, and that is okay, because it doesn't have to be a highlight reel. And if I ever figure out how to deal with anxiety once and for all, I will let you know. And if you know, please let me know in the comments. So just make sure your mind is not off somewhere, being too preoccupied to notice life unfolding right now. Seeing happiness as a destination to be reached. Happiness is such an interesting topic for me to think about, because it's very complex and we are still far from understanding it fully. For example, my dad believes that happiness is a skill that we can learn. So, hi Dad, if you're watching. And I think he may be onto something. I think that happiness is not just this state that we can get to or achieve. It's rather the way itself, the way which we choose to live life. There's a quote I like that goes, "A mathematical formula for happiness is reality divided by expectations." I think there's something to this. We are happier when reality is at least as good or better than we had expected, and if reality is lower than we had hoped for or expected, then that can lead to feelings of unhappiness. Like when you go on vacation and the weather sucks, for many people that would basically mean that the vacation is ruined. And when reality, if you don't want to accept reality as it is, if it is not how you would like it to be, then that can lead to feelings of unhappiness. Whereas we can also choose to accept it, roll with it, and make the best of it. And of course, there are things that can happen to us that are really challenging and completely outside of our control. And I'm not saying that happiness is always going to be easy. If things like that happen, we just have to somehow deal with it. So it's not like, yeah, just choose to be happy and you'll be happy. But I do like to believe that we have at least some control over it by choosing what we want to focus on in life, and that we all have the potential to be happy inside of us. Here in the West, we see happiness as something to achieve in life after meeting certain criteria, but this mindset is often tied to external accomplishments like career success, financial stability, social status, and this belief that happiness is a destination to be reached can also lead to constant striving, and that we always need more or better things to be content. Because with time, the joy that we feel when we get a new phone or a higher salary or a bigger home will fade, and then we need something new again to strive towards. So instead, I've learned to view happiness differently, not as a future goal, but as a way of living in the present and opening myself up to the possibility of joy and peace and calm in the everyday small moments. So I try to focus on gratitude, mindfulness, and acceptance. Even if things are not the way that I would ideally like them to be, that is what I try to do. Enjoying the process of life itself and finding happiness in the journey and not the destination. One quote that I really like from Thich Nhat Hanh, he has many really good quotes, but one of them is, sometimes your joy can be the source of your smile, and sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. And I love that because it shows that we have the power to make ourselves happy, and not just external things bringing a smile to our face, but rather choosing to smile and let that translate to more feelings of happiness and gratitude. So we have the option to do that for ourselves. The next thing that many people get wrong about life is that it matters what others think of your life choices. It's natural to care about the opinions of those close to us, family, friends, maybe people at work, but I think it's good to only care to a certain extent. I used to feel quite insecure when I was younger, and I was also bullied a little bit when I was young, which didn't help. But I was always scared that people wouldn't like me. I had these limiting beliefs about what I could do, and I always felt that others could do or achieve way more. And I was scared to make a decision without relying on the opinions of others. As I got older, I realized that I cared far too much about what other people think of me and my life choices, and that helped me to make some really big decisions that kind of go against the grain in many ways. Choosing minimalism is one of those, something that greatly improved my life in many different ways. Choosing to quit my corporate career and focus on pursuing YouTube instead. Not going for a typical traditional wedding and instead going for a registered partnership. And also believing in what I've always felt in my heart to be true, which is being child-free by choice, which I do have a full in-depth video about, by the way, on my Patreon if you ever want to check it out. All of these decisions could be seen as potentially a little strange, and I'm sure that there are many people out there who wouldn't necessarily agree, but they are the decisions that absolutely made the most sense to me. I see this in the comment section of my videos often as well, people asking me how to deal with others not understanding their desire to live a minimalist life with less stuff, or others not understanding their sensitive nature, or how they would like to say no to something, but they are scared of the reactions of others. I think when it comes to life decisions, ultimately it is your life to live, and what is best for you might not always align with what the people around you think is the right choice or best for you. And that can be a little hard sometimes, but it's also okay, because at the end of the day, you are the one who has to live with the consequences of your actions, of your decisions. And if you choose things based on what other people want for you, rather than what feels right for you, then you're the one who has to live with those consequences. And social media can make this even more difficult because we are always bombarded with images from other people's lives, and it is human nature to want to compare. So we're always just at least somewhat going to compare what others are doing and having and what they look like with our own life, and sometimes we might even feel like we don't measure up or our life doesn't measure up. It's one of the reasons I'm not really on social media myself. Or the other way around, we make decisions not necessarily based on what feels good for us, but more on what looks good on social media, what helps us to portray this image of how we want to be perceived as. So we might buy something that we don't really need because it's aesthetically pleasing or something on social media, which is basically what influencers do, just kind of portraying this picture perfect image online, and that is not oftentimes not really close to their reality. And when I learned to just not care so much about the opinions of others, I felt like I also got this like bonus skill. And that is that it is really easy for me now to let all kinds of things just kind of pass me by. I'm just here doing my thing, living my life as, intentionally and authentically as I can. And when I see other people doing things differently, which happens often, it doesn't bother me. I don't feel threatened. I don't feel like maybe they're doing it better, or I don't question my own choices. It kind of just rolls off like water from a duck's back, and I'm just, happy over here doing my little thing. So I think that living life according to your own values is rather peaceful. You're creating a life that's uniquely yours and making choices that resonate with who you are. And when you see others on social media or people in your personal life, even family and close friends, doing things differently, or people disagree with some of your choices, it just bothers you less. All right, so getting a little philosophical today. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them in the comment section about the things I talked about, or something that maybe you think many people get wrong, or something that you used to get wrong, and share like the light bulb moment that you had. If you enjoy my videos and you would love to get more of them and also support my work here with Simple Happy Zen, then you can consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon is another platform where I post 2 exclusive videos a month. And by joining, you will immediately get access to the entire backlog of videos, which is more than 120. Patreon is a true win-win because it is a way for you to get extra content from me and for me to monetize my work. So the income that I get from Patreon helps me to pay for business expenses. It helps me to fill up any gaps in my income when my ad revenue goes down, which always happens occasionally. And it helps me to be very, very selective about which sponsors I accept on the channel. So basically, my patrons help the Simple Happy Zen channel to exist. I want to keep things simple on Patreon, so I only have one tier. It's the same for everyone, $5 a month. If you are willing and financially able to contribute, then I would love your support. But either way, whether you're watching on YouTube or also on Patreon, I really want to thank you because all your support means so much to me, and watching the videos here on YouTube also really, really helps. So thank you, and I hope you had a nice time again today. As always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you all again really soon. Bye-bye. We are actually planning a very, very special trip, and it's coming up super fast. I'm so excited because I will finally be visiting the US. Yay!